Being technology leaders, a major challenge we all face is around delivery. And to address this topic, we have our first panel, which will share their thoughts on how to bring predictability in deliveries. And to moderate this discussion, I would like to call upon Mr. Pravin Uttarwar. Mr. Pravin is a serial entrepreneur, tech geek, and a community builder. His goal is to help companies to set up their remote tech teams and scale quickly. He is the co-founder and CTO of Mindbowser, an IT services and consulting company. Mr. Pravin Uttarwar, please.
Thank you, Vish. While they set up, I know the host and the speaker, they have set a very high expectation when it comes to speech. I am coming from a technology background and I never speak a lot. So, these guys, the team told me yesterday that you have to speak at least a couple of minutes and then start a panel discussion. I don't know where to start, but I'll just give quick idea about how this journey of the book started and how I gave the birth to this book. So I remember a discussion 2 years back, when we have a monthly leadership meeting we have in company, and in April, April 2020, when we had a meeting, and that time it was a time for everyone from the leadership team to set up a yearly goal, personal and professional. So that time Ayush told that he will write a book. So that was kind of an ambitious goal, but again, coming from he definitely kind of a very passionate guy when it comes to reading and writing, and he has inculcated that habit within the Mindbowser as well. So one example was we had a book club where every month there are a few people from the company to whom we send the books, and then of their choice, of course, and then they read it out and they share their experiences weekly, and also try to implement within the company and as well as a personal life. So that was one of the things, his passion also he has shared with others. And another example, when it comes to writing, reading is one part, but when it comes to writing, he led from the front. For example, whenever it comes to the blogs or even the technology blogs, I'll tell, the technology team never loved writing, that is for sure. And then whenever he was in the client calls and trying to solve their problems, and when we are speaking as a CTO or any other technical person, when they are speaking, he used to take the points, draft a blog and send to us, at least proofread, and then he publish. So that is kind of definitely kind of passion he brings, and that's how today we are here for the book launch. And definitely his commitment and consistency is what really taught us as well. So one of the quote I like to reiterate here, without commitment you never start, and without consistency you never finish. Thank you, Ayush, and congratulations on the book launch. Yeah, so I'd like to invite today's panelist, Sheetal Gole. Okay, maybe she is late. Vikram Barate, Director of Engineering, GS Labs. Please, Vikram. Umang Salgia, SVP, Xoriant. Aman Jain, VP, North Ladder. Yes, thank you. Thanks, guys. So I think we first start with the introductions. Maybe Aman, why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Aman. I work for this company called North Ladder in Dubai. We are a reverse commerce, marketplace. We connect B2C to B2B. So we buy from customers their used devices, laptops, phones, mobile, and then we sell it to businesses. It's like Cashify for the customers, but on the trading side, we are very different. We have built a stock market kind of platform for the buyers of our devices.
Hi, good morning. Okay. So I work with Xoriant. Xoriant is a software services company. I head the technology division of the company, building some solutions in IoT, computer vision, ML, and analytics. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Vikram Barate here. I work as the Director of Engineering in GS Lab and mainly looking after technologies into networking, telecom, and security.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, my first questions I'll start with Umang. So Umang, like in terms of deliveries, right? So in today's world, so my question is, right, what challenges you see to bring predictability when it comes to delivery?
Okay. I think one of the big challenges that everybody is seeing today is people, and so I'll not talk about that. But big challenge is that people, they do not try to understand what exactly is required. As Akash said earlier, you need to understand what your consumer is looking for. Put yourself in their shoes and see what it is, and don't try to solve it just as a technology problem, but also solve it as a perception problem. And when you're trying to do that and you're thinking through that, you will be able to see how do you need to plan yourself, what are the things that explicit and implicit things that you need to be able to solve for. And then you can put those planning in the right way. So I think, and it doesn't matter whether you are maybe leading that project or you are at the maybe leaf node as an engineer. If you are having that thought process, a lot of things will follow. If you can think of a problem that it could occur, you will say that, okay, I want to go and address it, so that you're not leaving it for a chance. And that's what keeps bringing you back into keeping sure that you'll meet your timelines and other things. So I think that's a key thing.
But considering the Xoriant, right, so it's kind of a big company, but how you guys are making sure that that is not a problem going forward? How you guys are making sure that you're solving that from the leaf node to the top management?
I think one major thing is we try to sensitize people as to what does it mean, because I think engineers love to do what is in a small box assigned to them. So we talk about it. We also have like sort of like a coaching program in the organization at all levels where we are talking to people, starting with senior managers, right? So we're saying what does it mean to deliver like a product company and not like a services company? Because when you deliver a services company, you always think that it is somebody else's work. I'm just trying to fulfill it. But if you think it is your own work, it's always there in your mind, and you will see, okay, what are all the various kinds of things. So that's the kind of discipline and that kind of mindset what we are trying to drive. We have several coaching programs for that. Secondly, we also look at what have we learned from doing so many different engagements. And what is the feedback we keep getting from customers, and try to work on those kind of areas. And some things, especially when you look in a delivery kind of thing, it is how do you do things consistently also, right? So if you see that maybe you're getting certain kinds of feedback once, maybe you can get it twice, but you cannot get it thrice. You need to make sure that there is some real action taken place so it doesn't happen again, right?
The feedback mechanism, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Vikram, to you, in terms of deliveries, right? So, pre-COVID and post-COVID, what do you think? What are the challenges? Are you guys facing more challenges today compared to the pre-COVID world?
Well, I think delivery-wise, surprisingly, before COVID, we were not very open for allowing people to work from home, because we were not very comfortable that they will deliver. Surprisingly, people work very well. Rather, they work much well than before COVID is what we observe. Even our customer appreciated that. Later on, it turned out to be a little hectic schedule for the team. But surprisingly, as I said, during COVID time, we didn't see much impact on the deliverables, and team was working very well. Now we are planning to bring team back into office, but I think this hybrid model is also working out very well in this case.
Okay, good. So when it comes to the customer expectations, right? So it's always told that, okay, you have to make sure that from the day one you're setting the right expectation. So in like a company like GS Labs, right? So how you guys are making sure that you're setting the right expectations in terms of deliverables for your customers, right?
So we always believe, so there is certain paradigm the GS Lab follows, and that's we always work as a trusted partner. In case there is anything we cannot do or anything is not going well or VC is not going well, we always tell customer upfront. I mean, it's okay if project gets delayed, it's okay if billing number counting reduces or those things. We always believe in keeping the transparency, and that goes even when starting the project. I mean, if something can be done, cannot be done, is going to get delayed, what's the long pull item, we always keep it very transparent to customer. In case we don't have skill set, in case we have extra skill set, we always keep everything on the table. And it doesn't go into, okay, how much business we are going to get, whether we are really going to solve the problem, whether we are going to do any value addition. We always focus on those things. And I think that in turn results into more business.
I remember one of the example that you shared in the lunch meeting. I remember that, yeah. I think Sheetal is here. Please welcome Sheetal. No worries. Sheetal, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'll just do a quick introduction. So my name is Sheetal Gole. I work as a senior vice president in Barclays. I head the reg reporting platforms for the investment banking division for Barclays. My entire career I've worked for banks from Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, Credit Suisse, was in the US for about 10 years, finally settled in India, but very happy to be here actually. I don't know where Ayush is, but okay.
Thank you, Sheetal. I'll ask one question to you as well. So you just came. So I want to understand more about, like, as you mentioned, right, your role. So where you involved exactly on delivery side of things, or facing with the customers, I mean.
So everything, right? So I'm the global.
Just click.
Hello? Is this better? You can hear me? Okay. So I'm the global owner for the reg reporting platforms. So Barclays is kind of divided into the investment banking division and the retail division. As a part of the investment banking division, we are supposed to do regulatory reporting to global regulators, right? So the technology platforms that deliver the reg reports is something that I head. So which includes everything front to back, right? From stakeholder management. So we work directly with the regulators. We also work with operations, legal, compliance. All of these are our stakeholders because all of these are responsible for reporting back to the regulators. So that's where we sit. But I primarily manage all of the tech platforms that do the regulatory reporting.
Oh, okay. Got it. So one more, continuing the question that I asked to the Vikram, right? So you must be dealing with a lot of non-tech founders, right? So how exactly you are making sure that you're communicating correctly to them in terms of their setting the expectations again? Because non-tech founders is like, it's pretty hard to explain them what goes inside the product development, right? So how you're setting that up correctly?
You want me to do that? So I think with the non-tech founders, definitely a challenge because you cannot talk to them at an engineering level. You need to be able to talk to them at what they want to hear in terms of what is their goals. So right from day one, you have to be very clear on what's happening. They may or may not like a lot of process-related stuff that is happening. Like in a tech, when you're working with a VP of engineering kind of thing, they want to have sprint plans, they want to have all those kind of things. They want to see very tightly involved in that. But non-tech founders want to see, okay, are you able to solve my problem? And so you have to give them a look and feel of what you're developing for them. Let them play around with it as often as possible, as early as possible. And I think you have to have very, very strong listening skills because they are going to talk at a very high level. They'll talk with their business in mind. you have to be able to listen to that and convert it into something that you can deliver. I'll give a very simple example. So the other day talking to somebody and saying, say, today in this whole digital transformation, sales guys have stopped listening to their customers. They say that, okay, like it was a tractor company. These guys, they say, you send us photographs of what you want to do, of your farms. And they say, oh, you need this kind of tractor. The farmer buys a tractor and there is of no use of that tractor for him. And they started realizing that when the farmer was talking to them, he's talking of 5 other problems, which would mean that these are the additional implements that you need to sell to them to make the tractor useful, which people have stopped listening to, right? So sometimes you have to listen and stop using technology at that point of time, and then decode what that person may be saying and convert it to your engineering team as to what do you need to do there.
Yeah, I know, tough job. This question is for everyone. So if you want to pinpoint one thing that fixed your delivery issues, what that one thing you want to start with, Vikram?
It's interesting because while coming here, I was thinking on this, what brings the predictability. So usually many things comes in our mind, like you need to have very clear problem statement, you need domain knowledge, you need right team, and many things. But actually projects or problems also differ. Many times you are rebuilding a same product, you are building product from scratch. Many times there is just one-liner statement. So, I mean, there are different things which can help you bring the predictability, but it doesn't apply to all kind of products. So, what I came up with is there are 2-3 common things which you need across all the product lines to bring the predictability. One very important that came up was you need to have a right team or a trusted partner whom you can trust really to pinpoint your problems. You need to have very right tools and technologies. Without that, it's very hard to proceed, and you need to have domain knowledge. The rest of the things can fall in the place, where the process can fall in the place. With right process or agility, you can bring in you don't have clarity on the end product. You can bring in that with help of your process and all that. But team, technology, and domain, I think, is the very important factor to bring the predictability.
Okay, and any example, like one thing that fixed your delivery issues recently? That one thing like everyone should follow, I mean.
One recent example is we are developing a product. It's a very niche product in telecom. It's not available in open source, and to give you very precise, it's used for its component called EPDG. It's in telecom, but it's not there in core 4G or 5G. But it is used in 4G and 5G, and it uses extensively IPsec and a lot of other technologies. And we wanted to develop that product for customer. And when we proposed them solution, okay, this is the simple way you can do it, or this is the way we had done it previously. They said, okay, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that, and we have budget of only this much, because it was a startup and actually they had some delivery to address. So then we came up with a different approach to solve the problem. Traditional approach was not working there. So we came up with a different approach. It was still solving the problem. We told them, okay, it will solve your problem. This will be your problems. Next, are you okay with this? Actually, they agreed with that, and we went ahead. So, I think it's the right team who knows the knowledge, who has the domain, how to solve problem, who knows the right tools and technologies, and we can still solve the problem with the given cost, and we can still tell the customer, okay, we'll solve your problem, but going ahead, you're going to fail here. Keeping that clarity, we just came up with the right solution.
I think the customer education is like what you did, right? So that to bring onto the same page. So, Umang, same question.
Yeah. So I think 2 things I will say is, one is very similar to what I was saying earlier, is to drive ownership in people, right? Ownership is very, very simple, simply defined. It is not saying that this is my kingdom, but it is also really saying that I can solve whatever I need to do using all the resources that I have and all the relationships that I have, right? And being driven towards that. So every person in the team, if you are able to drive that ownership, is one. And the second is empowering them to be bold, okay? Because when you're bold, you will do things, you may make mistakes, but mistakes will help you do better. If you don't do anything, you're never going to make mistakes, and then you're going to do mediocre work. So I think you have to make sure that your team feels that by being bold, they try out something new, because sometimes if you're having a delivery issue, you really will have to reinvent yourself to get back to where you needed to be. And they have that space, and there is a net that the management and the leaders are putting so that they will experiment.
Yeah, I think the trust is important, right, Tisha?
Yeah, so I'll speak more from the tech side. I think being from the tech side, we all have the itch to use the latest and the greatest. Scala is there in the market, now Flutter is there in the market, let's try this out. I think being lean and being able to focus on what the problem is and solving for all the problem and not the greatest technology helped. Had like 2-3 examples where we like, let's start with microservices, but we'll never be Google to actually consume microservices. So I think starting lean mostly worked for me to be more predictable and deliver on time. Yeah.
Interesting. But by the way, like you were part of EMR group, right? So that is a big venture itself. So
Yeah.
how you handle that, like, because it's very hard to.
So EMR Group was kind of a service company. The entire technology department was 500 odd people. So it was a service company, working for the entire EMR Group. I was leading software engineering, and it was the same problem. So when I went in, our hospitality business had like 10 software people, engineers working for them, and properties had 50, and loyalty had 20 people. The first thing is, all the businesses wanted to own their own people. This is my 5 engineers, so they'll sit beside me. Getting them from the mindset, you will not have the right delivery, you will not have the right tools, skill set, was the biggest challenge. So it was more about talking to the business people and getting all of them together in a room. What has happened is, I'll give a very specific example. Burj Khalifa, as everybody knows here. So there was a specific IT team for Burj Khalifa who built a software for Burj Khalifa management. Similarly, we had 8 softwares of similar designs or solving the similar purposes. Going to each of them and saying, "Boss, what are you doing here?" One is building an iOS app, another one is building a Flutter app. Build one app and reuse, right? So I think stakeholder management and saying, okay, people sitting beside you are not solving the problem really. They are just following your instructions.
I see.
That helped.
Okay, that's good.
So it could be repetitive of what they just said, but especially the area that I work in, right? There is a huge risk that we carry in terms of breaches or fines or business not able to grow in a specific market, primarily because we are not able to do regulatory reporting on time in those regions, right? So there's a huge risk in terms of what we do, right? And a huge criticality. So we need our end of day reports that have to go out, right? So any sort of delivery that we do in our space is very time bound. There's a huge investment that the bank does in the entire regulatory space, the compliance space. So I would say 2 things, right? One is, we're not a technology organization, we're a bank, but technology is the core of what we do. But instead of focusing on innovation, engineering, using the best tech stack to kind of deliver things, AI, analytics, I think the focus should be on solving the problem in hand the right way, right? So I think that's what has helped us deliver faster, quicker, which is the need in what we do. And I think hiring the right kind of people, I think, who are, I won't say dedicated to the organization, because you're seeing the attrition and you see people just leaving jobs and switching jobs, right? But I think there are, you don't have to be superstars, but identifying the right people who are dedicated to the organization, to the work that they do, who are average, that's fine. But I think identifying the right people plus, solving the problem in hand the right way instead of just talking about engineering and innovation, I think those 2 have really helped us deliver quality plus being on time.
So you mean like attitude, right attitude?
Right attitude, as I said, you can't hire the best engineering experts, that's not needed really, right? But hiring people who are committed to what they do, I think it's extremely important.
Yeah. So Umang, I'll come back to you again. So basically, I think you saw all kind of projects from small to big, right? The customers as well. So the engineering processes, right, when it comes to delivery, does they like change based on the size of the project?
I think definitely if you're working for say a small startup, you don't want to have too many, say, processes. You want to be very agile. You want to move very fast. You want to be able to experiment there because you don't know what is going to really click. A startup moves very fast. My own background, I ran startups and I used to run 1 week sprints. Okay, so it is very different because you're either going to an investor, you're either going to a customer. Every other week you want to show something new. You want to get validation of what is happening there and then see how you can scale that, right? But when you're working with a larger company, they do need processes because there are a lot of stakeholders that they have. They also have a larger reputation to save. And so like when I was at Vistion, we were building something for a car which is critical. So you had, even if you had a light on your, say, instrument cluster to show whether you have enough fuel, there were 2 ways to reconfirm before it showed up on your cluster. Okay, so the way the process that you have to drive there is very, very different because they'll need to know that, okay, if something goes wrong, do you know that it can go wrong? Can you address it in the software itself and in the process? Right? So you have to have a different mindset. You have to understand the kind of company that you're working with, what are their stakeholders, and then adapt your process as well as your engineering style so that it will fit what is going to happen there.
So for both kind of projects, right? So still like the company level ISO and SOC 2 still applies?
Sorry?
The compliance, right? ISO and then SOC 2. So all these applies to...
Yes, so...
you're moving in a faster pace, right? So just trying to understand, because if weekly sprint is there, it's pretty hard to do these things in parallel.
So I think, see, in a startup, if you're especially in the very early stage of the product and other things, you're really trying to create something that you can take to the customer. Right. And at that time, maybe ISO and all this is not important, right? But once they get, and then the customer says that, okay, I'm going to now go and sell to, say, maybe a category A customer, my product there. So that startup will now start worrying because they have to get a lot of check marks done. Is my data safe there? Is it at rest it is safe? Is it in memory safe? All those things will come in.
Okay.
But if you try to do that day one, you will never move.
Correct. Okay. Sheetal, wanted to know like what are the top 3 KPIs that you measure to bring the like more predictable output?
So I think the unknowns is the biggest one, which, kind of lessens your predictability. So I think reducing the number of unknowns is very, very important. So we've got something called as, we mark our stories as ready or not, right? So you could have a product backlog in a sprint with a bunch of stories put in, but not all of those stories are really ready for development, right? So we've got something called as, are we ready to actually work on those stories? And then we've got a bunch of, things like the dependencies, we've got a CSO angle to it, we've got if all the requirements are put in, have all the stakeholders agreed to it. So that ready and all the KPIs sort of metrics that we track below it, and it could just vary application to application, right? That's extremely important for us to reduce the number of unknowns and us being able to predict when that solution is going to go out. So that's how we typically kind of deliver our product backlog and stories, yeah.
Any other KPIs apart from this?
Those are primarily the ones that we use, otherwise there are standard ones, but, kind of defining and reducing the number of unknowns is what we typically use to kind of deliver our sprints.
Okay, I see. So keeping stories ready before like the sprint, I think, way ahead of the sprint.
But the definition of ready is very important,
Exactly.
right? So I think that's what drives and reduces the unknowns, as I said,
Yeah, one of the takeaways for us. So I know like I am running out of time. So I have one question for everyone, like 2 questions. You can answer any one of them. What is your favorite book apart from this one? And second is one advice you want to give today for the founders. So like lead management people sitting here. So what thing you want to like advise, like which you might have saw, like if going back 10 years, this maybe I could have done in a better way, right? So what that can.
Yeah, so maybe as an advice, it's very difficult to give advice because, but I think especially if you're looking at a startup and a new company and whatever, I feel you have to be very open to doing experiments. What you start with is probably not what you will end with. And every single day you have to be thinking that, is this the right thing? Even if you have put, maybe you say that, oh, this is great, but you get feedback that this is not the right thing, you have to be open and say that I'll start from scratch if necessary, but I need to be successful. And I think that I'll say.
I think consumer feedback, what Akash was telling, that's important. Yeah, Vikram?
Book, very recently I read a book by J. Samit. I forgot the name. It's about the business only. I will remember the name. One advice, not advice, I will say I put a thought. I spend most of the time building products in product company. Very recently I moved to service company. I work in Persistent for a very short time and in GS Lab for 5 years. One thing I see is that we need to improve as an industry is to bring little empathy to our customers. Mostly we look just behind how many engineers we are getting and okay, can we add more engineers? And little empathy towards customer to solving their problems. And it's okay to invest some money from your side to solve customer problem or take the risk with the customer. I think we need to bring that in the industry.
Yeah, no, that's a good takeaway. Aman?
I think the book is Power of Habit. A lot of things I was surprised while I read the book. And advice is, I mean, it's 2022. If you want to start your company, a lot of people here, there are a lot of drag and drop tools out there. You just got to give it a try, and you don't really need to wait, build the entire product. You can do a MVP, push it out there, see adoption, and then go and build a full-fledged product.
Yeah, we have one friend, Axonator, right? So we can build products to Axonator. Yeah, Sheetal?
I think two things in terms of advice. One is, I think, invest in the right kind of people and ensure that you retain them. So identify, the right talent for your organization and ensure that you invest in them, ensure that they're kept happy in a sort of whatever way that is needed. But I think people is what is the core of your organization for you to deliver anything. So I think invest in the right kind of people. And I think take a risk. I mean, I think we should all kind of increase our risk-taking appetite. I think that's needed. So,
okay. Yeah, thanks. Thank you all. I'm running out of time, so thanks for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to call upon Mr. Ayush to felicitate the panel.